Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Amin Marai, the Associate Director of the Middle East Professional Learning Initiative at Harvard Graduate School of Education. Through this series of videos, we aim to showcase the great educational initiatives taking place across the globe. Today, we have the good opportunity of exploring We Love Reading program in a conversation with its founder, Dr. Rana Dajani. Dr. Dajani is a Jordanian molecular biologist and associate professor of Hashemite University. She is a fellow at the Radcliffe Institute for Advanced Study at Harvard University. Welcome, Dr. Dajani, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me to share our experiences.
Thank you. So, first, I think it would be great if you can introduce to us We Love Reading and tell us more about its story and how it came to being.
Great. So actually, I made an observation and realized that if we really want to create change makers in our children so that when they grow up they can become citizens who can make a difference in their communities, we need to instill in them a love of learning. That's very, very important. And to me, the question was, how do you instill a love of learning among children? And the logical sequence is that it all starts with reading, with enjoying to read. And the problem in many developing countries is that children grow up feeling that reading is boring, it's a chore, it's a waste of time, rather than feeling that reading is fun and exciting. So I set out to try to find out, as a scientist, how can I help children fall in love with reading? And through research and observation, I realized that the way to make a child fall in love with reading is by reading aloud to the child. As early as even when the mother is pregnant, that she starts reading to her child, and therefore in the mind, in the subconscious of the child, there's a connection between the feeling of security and happiness and reading that stays with the child as they grow up. And so they become lifelong learners because they are lifelong readers. And so We Love Reading developed as a solution to address this challenge. It's impossible to train every parent to read aloud, but if we can find one adult volunteer to gather the children and read aloud to them, kind of as a substitute to the parent, then we can fulfill that objective of planting the love of reading among children. And that's what We Love Reading is all about. The model of We Love Reading is that we train adults who are volunteers, men, women, youth, from age 16 to 100, to gather the children in a public space and read aloud to them on a regular basis, books in the native tongue of the child so that they can enjoy them and have fun with them and see themselves in the books and the stories that they're listening to. And that by itself is enough to instill and foster that love of reading.
It's really inspirational to learn about the model that you adopted and how you're trying to improve and support literacy in various creative ways. Can you tell us more about the impact of We Love Reading in terms of like the impact in the communities and the impact at large?
So We Love Reading started off addressing the children and instilling in them a love of reading. And the impact of that is that these children not just only fell in love with reading, they started asking for books instead of toys. They started reading themselves the stories or making up stories if they don't know how to read. They started reading to their siblings and friends, and they started demanding of their parents to read to them. So in a way we flipped, rather than the parent begging the child to read and learn, it's the child begging the parent that we want to read. And this is so important to create a child who's a change maker and a lifelong learner as they grow up. And these children also started, they had an increased willingness to go to school, not because the schools were any fancier or better, but because the child realized that if I go to school, I can learn how to read and I can unlock the magic of reading. So, and this is what we want. We want the child to have the incentive. And we also showed through research that we used in collaboration with academia such as Harvard and Yale and Brown University, the impact of the program on children's mental cognition, the impact of the program on children's empathy, it increased, or even in changing their behavior towards particular themes. For example, in the environment, we read to them books about energy conservation, water conservation, and anti-littering, and these children's behavior changed statistically, significantly towards those themes. The second impact was on the adults. This is something we had not realized when we started. The adult volunteers who are reading aloud to the children, they themselves became empowered leaders in their community and therefore became change makers. Because in their mind they said, if we can do this and create a reading circle and make an impact on our community, what else can we do? So they themselves became social entrepreneurs, identifying challenges and creating solutions for that. The third impact was the community as a whole. So now the community saw that this adult from the community is reading aloud to the children. Now the community pitched in and started offering donations to buy more books, supporting the adult and respecting that adult volunteer who's reading aloud, encouraging their children to do collective things, taking care of the community, getting to know each other. Neighbors started getting to know each other through the reading aloud. So the impact of the program that starts at a grassroots level is much, much more than what is expected, because it is organic and in a way it's human-centered design. We Love Reading, as a result, has spread now to 39 countries around the world, and by word of mouth and people paying it forward. But the real reason why it spread is because it's very simple. It's only an adult volunteering to read aloud to children. They don't have to be highly educated just to read a children's book. It's flexible. They can choose wherever they want to read, a mosque, a church, a community center. And it's sustainable because they're volunteers and the community starts pitching in. So that's why it's very, very easy to spread and go on.
I wanted to ask, if I'm someone who's interested to be a part of We Love Reading, what can I do?
That's a great question. The minimum you can do is for yourself to read every day. Make sure that you read something new. That's very important, because you become a role model to the people around you.
Definitely.
Second, to read to the children around you, whatever your profession is. If you're a teacher, make sure that you have a specific period of time every day that you read to your students, or in whatever profession you are, to read aloud to your relatives, to your children, to the neighbors, to anyone you know. More important, as an individual, whether you're a teacher, an educator, administrator, or just somebody who works in the community, what you can do is to look around you and identify challenges that you think, that bother you, that you think are wrong in your community. And then start thinking, because you know your community, you're part of the community, why that challenge is there, why this problem came up. And think about it and delve deep and ask around and try to find the root cause for that problem. Because that's what we did with We Love Reading. We found out that the root cause for children not loving to read is not lack of books, it's lack of reading aloud to them. So as a person from the community, identify the challenge and start thinking of the root cause, and then start developing a solution for that challenge by yourself as an individual. And it's not about doing great and big things, it's about thinking small. It's about thinking, what can I do as a person? And then go ahead and do it. And don't think that, oh, I'm just one person, I'm not going to make a difference. No, one person can make a difference. It's the butterfly effect, and that's our motto. When a butterfly flutters its wings in China, there's a hurricane in the Atlantic. So when you're doing something small in your neighborhood, you're actually that butterfly that will result in change somewhere, someplace beyond what your imagination. So I urge you to have confidence in yourself and go ahead and make a difference and be a change maker. And it all starts with reading.